So we're going to go over the details of each sheet of this Excel-based tool called meta-analysis tool for algae biofuels, where you can actually investigate the greenhouse gas emission of making a certain type of algae biofuel based on certain production pathways. So in this first tab, the instruction, you will actually see the detailed description of the rest of the sheets and how to use them. And if we go to user input, if you're familiar with the algae biofuel lifecycle, you start with cultivation, right? Then the first thing you're probably gonna specify is what type of algae species you're looking at. In many cases, it can be like Chlorella vulgaris, and then you can actually choose. Of course, you can choose other species of interest, and then you can choose reaction types, whether it's a raceway or like PBR, right? And then CO2 source. In this case, we choose flue gas, but you can choose, for example, the virgin CO2 through PSA process. Then, depending on the species you choose, you may actually have the option. In this case, is not the option of choosing the media where it's gonna grow, right? And the location, of course, matters. It's gonna impact the growth of the algae. Then after that, that's the harvesting. You can have, for example, different dewatering steps, and also you can choose whether you're going to dry or not. So if you do drying or whether you dry or not is going to actually affect the options of lipid extraction, right? So in this case, if you choose hexing, and then we end up with the option of doing biodiesel, let's say, right? So we can do a conventional esterification plus transesterification. Then you have biodiesel, and then of course you have glycerin as co-product. So co-products here. The extraction residual actually does not refer to the transesterification, but it actually refers to the residual that actually get from the extraction process. Then you will have the option to how you're gonna to decide how you're gonna deal with, for example, the extraction residual. Here you can choose if you want to do a anaerobic digestion and then burn that in CHP, or there are like direct combustion or send to landfill. So after you specify all those options, and here you can also decide whether you're going to use a nominal value, which is basically a single value for this particular option, or you can say, okay, I want to do uncertainty, then there will be like a random sampling of a certain value, like of one value when you actually run the Monte Carlo simulation for this particular parameter, right? And then once you're done, you can say, okay, if you're going to just run the model as is, let's just try it now. Then as you can see in the middle here, so this is the results tab. Because we specified 100 times of Monte Carlo simulation, the results are going to change for a bit. And then, okay, it's stabilized. Then as you can see here, we will see here is the box plot for the uncertainty results for each of the life cycle stages. And here we have the bottom line, dotted line are actually benchmark where you actually specify here. And for example, you can choose soybean biodiesel, soybean renewable diesel. When you choose different options, the benchmark will be different, right? And then also, if you want to compare two different life cycles, you can do that too, because currently, whenever you change the option, the intermediate tab will have the corresponding values that's going to be pulled by the VBA code to do the calculation. But here are the other two tabs where you can actually specify two different life cycles. They're empty right now, right? So then what you can do is, okay, if you say this is my first life cycle, I'm gonna record that. Then yeah, just take a few seconds, and then if you look at LC1, I think everything's copied there, right? You have all the ingredients for calculation. Then okay, if I want to change something, let's say in this case I want to do HTL, and I'm gonna do, as you can see, the options are actually conditional upon your previous choices. Then in this case, you have to do hydrotreating because you have the HTL process, right? So then you make, like the renewable diesel, and you can deal with the residual. Let's say I'm gonna do fermentation, and then that's my life cycle 2. Okay, I'm gonna click record as well. Then, of course, you can send benchmark for each of them, and then I think this is copied as well, right? So, okay, then let's click run. This is gonna take a bit longer because you have 2 life cycles, and I think on my old MacBook Pro, I have like 8 gigabytes of memory, so I set it to 100 Monte Carlo runs. So if you have a larger memory, you probably can set it to be a larger number of iterations. But again, when you have multiple life cycles, pay attention here because this session only shows the result for the second life cycle. And then, of course, the other section here is to show the meta-analysis, which means the code will, of course, calculate the box plot for your uncertainty result, right? So then it will just pull out the relevant LC studies based on how many of those options are checked in other studies, right? So they get I think it's kind of coded in a way that you will see what are the studies that are more close to your situation, and then you can actually see the change of range, right? So, and this is the user interface, and hopefully that gives you the idea about how you can actually construct different life cycles and then get the results, right? And then I want to go over the rest of the sheets. For example, if you compare two different life cycles, right? So in the statistical analysis sheet, you will see some results. For example, the comparison of the box plots for two different life cycles, and then visually you can basically say if there, if there's a huge overlap between two life cycles, two different pathways, right? So of course there are some statistical analysis to see if they're statistically different in mean, let's say, right? And here are the two tabs where this are the Monte Carlo simulation results for each life cycle. So if you don't specify two life cycles, then this is where by default you will have the Monte Carlo simulation results. But if you specify two different life cycles to two different production pathways, then this is for LC1.